Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, we're going to go over velocity banking for college graduates. So, if you've never heard of velocity banking, have no idea what it is, I'd recommend you click the Velocity Banking 101 link down below and then come back here. And we're going to go over how to pay off debts using velocity banking. So, let's assume that you are a college graduate, right? And with usually most college graduate has something called debt or student debt. And what are the disadvantages of student debt is that A, you can't declare bankruptcy on it, so you have to pay it off. And B, they just give them out like candy. So unlike most other loans, like mortgages, business loans, credit cards, they do some sort of usually, or I should say this, they usually do some sort of evaluation and underwriting process, but because they're federally guaranteed by, or they're guaranteed by the federal government, loans are just provided to like candy to incoming college students, and then they don't really think about like how am I going to pay this off, right? So this isn't the most ideal scenario, but this is something I just came up with. So let's say that you're a college graduate. Now, you may have done a fantastic job networking, getting a good job, and made a six-figure salary right off the gates, right? Um, that certainly didn't happen to me, but I'm just going to assume maybe you just, like me, who couldn't find a job, so you're just living in my parents' home. And, by that time I was like, I don't even want to find a job. I'll just live with my parents. But let's say you're a little bit more responsible than me. Then you make $45,000 gross. That's about $3,000 a month in net in income. And unfortunately, you can't find a place to rent. Why? Because landlords will only rent to you if you make three times the income. If the average rent is about like $2,000 a month, they ain't gonna rent to you. Okay? So let's just assume because we're the average American college graduate, we don't have rent. We got to live with our parents, and that's $0, right? And maybe mom and dad are really generous, but we have a good amount of debt compared to our income. So we have 45K in debt. Is that 45K in debt? Yeah, 45K in debt. We got a nice student loan, $30,000 at 6%. And I know how student loans work. Sometimes they got like different loan providers. So you might have like student loans one, two, and three. But let's just assume that we only have one student loan at the 30K, 6%. And this is eating up a good chunk of our cash flow. And we're going to be responsible and pay for our own stuff, food, gas, insurance, etc. But the only thing that we need help in with is we got to live with our parents, right? And I read the statistic. I think 80% of Gen Z adults live with their parents, right? So this isn't too unrealistic as maybe an average American college graduate. Who knows? Maybe you made it big and this doesn't apply to you. But we'll see if velocity banking can be used to help pay off these three debts. So I always say this every single video. What are the first two things that we need when doing velocity banking? We need a budget. So I've already done the budget right here. And after we do this budget, we have to make sure that our expense breakdown is correct. And on our expense breakdown, that we list every single debt that we have because every debt that we have is more cash flow for us. Now, I would definitely recommend that for this person, you just switch job every 2 years, or you switch jobs every 2 years, because that's the easiest way to increase your income. If you're going to stay at the same job, it's unlikely that they're going to give you good raises and stuff like that, because switching jobs gives you much more negotiating leveraging power than staying at your own job. Because if you stay at your own job, you'll notice that the only time that they'll actually give you like significant raises is when you threaten to quit. That's like the average workplace. If you work at an extraordinary workplace, that's not the case. But my point is that if you're at the salary, you want to focus on two things: increasing your income and also decreasing your debt. But in velocity banking, we always assume that we have the same income, right? But we want to use some strategies or techniques so that we can be able to pay off our debts quickly. Okay, so this is what I would do, right? So we have our budget. Now we got to select our operating account, which is a line of credit. So what is a line of credit? All it is a financial tool where you could borrow money, pay it back, and then use it over and over again, right? And that's essentially what a credit card is. So maybe we do have access to a personal line of credit. Somebody got it for us, maybe not. But let's just assume that for whatever reason, we were able to get credit cards as high as $10,000 and $5,000, right? And we got to pay these off. So we're freaking out because we don't know what to do. But what we can do is we can use one of these credit cards as our main Velocity banking account. Now, this is actually a little bit more complicated, so let's just do this. Let's just assume that we have a 10K personal line of credit, okay? And a personal line of credit is a little bit different because it's more advantageous because we can pay anything with the personal line of credit. All it is that you pay cash, you dump it into your checking account with a click of a button, and it's almost like a credit card, except that they deposit the funds into your checking account, right? Whereas with the credit card, you can't pay, there's certain restrictions. So, for example, with the personal line of credit, I could pay all of these, whereas with the credit card, I can't pay my own credit card with credit card one, nor can I pay credit card two with credit card one, nor can I pay a student loan with the credit card unless I'm using Plastique, right? That's something to be aware of. But let's just say in this scenario, we have access to a 15% $10,000 line of credit, and maybe we had responsible parents or something that said we should get it. But here's the other thing too: when's the best time to get credit? It's when you actually don't need it. And so some people are in dire situations right now and they're thinking, I need a line of credit right now. Well, guess what? The bank's not going to give it to you. And I'm being realistic with you, right? In fact, if I were going to be realistic with this college graduate, I would have just told you go to community college first and then, go to transfer so that you don't have such a student loan debt. And, there are people out there with like $100,000, $200,000 student loans because they got like graduate degrees and they never made any money in the workforce and then they graduate and it's like, oh my goodness, like I have to make money, right? But let's just assume that we'll just try this. So now we're going to do velocity banking. So velocity banking, and again, we for most intents and purposes, we just say state, we're gonna have the same income. Although I would recommend, yeah, focus on two things: increasing your income and decreasing these expenses, which we're going to do right now. So what we can do is we can just go ahead and pay off our debts, and the more debts that we pay off, the more cash flow we get. Okay, so let's just do this. Let's move this $10,000 credit card to this $10,000 line of credit. Okay, so we'll just say $10,000 balance. And then this is month zero. And so what happens? Well, simply by transferring debt, this goes to zero and this stays the same. But take a look at this. So if you know anything about how velocity banking works, there's no savings. And then what's our cash flow? So C2 minus C3. It's about $1,000. Not that bad, but it's better than 599. So by simply just transferring our debt, we've increased our cash flow. And this is what we're going to do. This is a velocity banking strategy. All we got to do is transfer our income to here, which will do two things: satisfy the minimum monthly payment and also minimize the interest, right? So we don't really take this as an expense except for the interest that accrues. And then we take our expenses from the line of credit, and that's pretty much it, right? And so let's go ahead and do this. So now what we're going to do is subtract this with our cash flow. And actually, let me do a formula. So equals I2 plus J2 minus our cash flow. And what is our cash flow? It is 949.19. You see that right there? 949.19. Okay. And now we're going to get the interest at the first month. So the first month is when we get the statement balance. And then what we're going to do is take the two averages together, right? Because they calculate by the average daily balance. And then we divide by 12. Okay. So why do we divide by 12? Because that's the monthly interest and interest rates quoted annually. And this is what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of go here, right? And wait. And so one of the other things that we can do is we can pay this all the way down to zero, or we could just transfer the rest of this $5,000 to line of credit to free up this 170 of cash flow at this moment, right? And so just to be a little bit more accurate, this is what we can do. We can go ahead and look for a bank rate minimum credit card payment calculator, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Bank rate credit card min calculator. And then just go in here And then let's see. So this is $5,000 at 29%, 5000 and 29%. Okay. Whoopsie. And then calculate here. So it's 170.83. And now, after how many payments? 6 payments, what's our balance? After 6 payments, what's our balance? It's about $4,771.41, right? So as you can see here, the payments actually go down, but we're assuming that the payments are the same. So it's not technically correct how we're doing this, but just bear with me here. And then now what we can do is move this $4,741 into this line of credit, right? And as long as it's under 10,000, we should be good. Okay. So you see it's 9,500. And then guess what? Every time we move debt, more cash flow. Oh my goodness, this is zero. And now we're over $1,000 cash flow. Mind blown. All right. So now let's go ahead and pay this off. So now what we're going to do is keep copying and pasting and then put our new cash flow in here. And what's our new cash flow? 1120.02, right? And then we just wait until this sucker goes to zero, right? Whoopsie, I screwed up. All right, so I'm copy and paste again. All right, so now we just copy and paste until this gets red, right? Because this means it's completely paid off. And then 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, actually, let me just do this formula. So K12 plus 1, and then copy and paste this, right? And so 16 months have passed. And so now what we can do is pay off this student loan. And let's see after 16 months of the student loan, what the how much is left in the principal. So I'm assuming a good chunk of it will be paid off after 16 months. So let's go to the student loan calculator. And where do we go here? Personal loans, student loan calculator, right? So now let's do 30, 0, 30, 0, at 6%. So is that right? 579.98. Okay, so after, where's the schedule? After how many payments? 16 payments. Let's see what the balance is. So, oh, one, two. So what's 16? That's 16 is 12 plus 4. So that's going to be April of 2025. All right, so 23 grand. All right, not bad. We paid a good amount. Okay. So paid a good amount. Okay. All right. So one of the things I like to calculate is something called a cash flow index, and I'm gonna kind of skip the explanation. But if you don't know anything about it, I would Google it. But one of the reasons why I like to know what the cash flow index is, all it is formula about the statement balance divided by the monthly payment. So let me just go ahead and do this: 23,319.53 divided by 579.98, and let's see what that number is. Okay, 4021. 4021. Let me change the formatting of this number. Where's the number formatting here? Well, here's the thing. This one is 4021. Ignore the dollar sign for now. Oh, actually, let me do this. Where's the clear formatting? All right, so yeah, number format. That's what I need. Okay, so number, 2 decimal places. All right. So if you ever look at the explanation for the cash flow index, it says that any loan that's less than a 50 should be paid off regardless of the interest rate. That's what it says on the website, right? So what we can do is if we had enough limit in our line of credit, we could certainly pay it off, but we don't. We have 23 grand in our loan, but our limit's only $10,000. So one of the things I might do is I might just pay, just transfer it in $10,000 chunks, or even $3,000 chunks if you want to just kind of be minimize the interest as much as possible, but it's not going to really matter that much. But what I can just do is a couple of $3,000 chunks. So what that means is that we transfer $3,000, right? So we transfer $3,000. We'll just say 20K, make the math easier, and we'll just do this plus 3000, right? $3,000, okay? And and then you'll notice that in about 2 months, 17, 18, that $3,000 get paid off by our cash flow, right? And so again, we just do this a couple of times. So it'll just be 17K, and then what's another 3 grand? And this is actually gonna go a little bit faster because we're doing a little bit of cowboy math. We're making the monthly payment and paying it off with our cash flow in the line of credit. But this will be 14K and then 13K, no, 11K, and then 9K. Okay. So now let's just do this. So um, one, so we did it one time, two, three, four, five. We just do it 5 more times, right? So we add another 3,000 plus 3000, right? And then we just subtract our cash flow on the next one, or until it becomes red. And then we just kind of rinse and repeat, right? And so we just keep doing that, and then we'll be able to pay this off really, really easily. And if we want an estimate of how long it's going to take, I think it's just about 23K divided by 3, or we just do 24, and then that would be about 8 times. So 8 times 2 would be, if it takes about 2 or 3 months to pay off, so we'll just say 2 months, about 16 months to pay this off. It'll be a little bit faster because we're actually making payments as we're using our cash flow to pay that on the line of credit. And then once we do that, this will go to zero. Okay. And so now we've done that, 1700 cash flow. So I think this would be enough. Um, Actually, would that still be enough to make a good rental payment? Probably not unless you're living in a one room. So I would still say, yeah, even though we increased our cash flow from 600 to 1700, great improvement, but we should definitely increase our income or try to double it, right? So I would even recommend at this point still living with the parents and find a way to increase your income, but at least we paid off these three debts really easily, right? So again, credit cards were really easy. You just transfer them to the line of credit, increase cash flow. With the student loan, it's a little bit more trickier for two reasons. One, we have the lower interest rate, and we have a much bigger amount compared to our line of credit limit. And so, again, hopefully I didn't confuse with this cash flow index number, but basically all that means is that anything under 50, you kind of want to pay off as soon as possible. Anything under over 100, you kind of want to pay that off dead last. But again, so our objective was pay off $45,000 rent of debt so we can get a place to rent. But I don't think people will still rent, mainly because they'll landlords will look at this income and be like, you don't make 3 times the rent, so you probably won't get it. But at least you have 1,700 of cash flow a month, right? And so you'll be able to easily save for a down payment. Hopefully, I don't know. You know, it's funny. A random story. I have a renter who actually offered to pay me a year's worth of rent because A, she told me the houses were crap, and B, I don't think people were renting to her because she didn't have, let's say, the monthly income, but she had a lot of savings. And I was like, all right, I'll take it. And you know what? She's been an incredible tenant. Why? Because she has skin in the game. And if you know anything about how to get the best rentals, you got to make sure your renter has some skin in the game so that you don't get like a dud tenant. And that's like the landlord's biggest fear, having a dud tenant and having to evict. All right, so this is velocity banking for the average American college graduate. I honestly don't know if 45K is the average American college graduate. Who knows? But yeah, so hopefully, if you are an actual college graduate and you just got a job, maybe you could let me know what your numbers are, and then I'd actually revise this to be a little bit more realistic. But I'm just taking, making this up out of thin air. So, but the principles are the same, right? What are the principles? Number one, get a budget. Number two, use your line of credit as an operating account. And what's the difference between the average American college graduate and the Velocity banker is that the average American uses their checking account to pay their bills, whereas the Velocity banker uses the line of credit as their main operating account. All right, awesome, everybody. All right, so that's it for today. Have a great day, and I'll keep trying to cranking out videos. And also plug for this channel. As always, if you're interested in joining our group, go ahead and click the Google form link below. And other than that, cheers.